It's the week before, the last week before Christmas break.
Trying to get the last minute stuff done so we can be off next week.
Right? Whatever happened to the slow time when December was like you could catch up and work on stuff you had put aside, and not anymore.
I,
Not
Can I
anymore.
share my screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, can you set that up, Bianca?
Should be good to go, Liz.
Okay, just now I can't find my controls. Sorry, guys. Oh, shoot.
It's one of those days.
Hard because when you start the slide, it just maximizes and then now you can't see
Oh,
anything. Okay. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you see the slideshow now. Okay,
I
excellent.
see
Thank
it.
you.
Great. All right. Thank you everybody for making time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We just wanted to touch base with all of our awesome change champions. Welcome to the group for those of you that are new. And if you know of anyone else in your areas that might be interested, let us know because we do want to try to get this information disseminated to as many people as possible. Providing you an update on P2P and the DOA conversion. Next slide, please.
Oh, just one second.
Okay, so this is the agenda, what we're going to be talking about, and we'll end with Q&A. So if you can, please hold your questions off until the end, and then we'll go over them. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm clicking the button, I promise you.
Oh, thank you. We wanted to remind everybody we do have a procure to pay website under procurement. That's the link that'll take you there. We put on that website any information that we want to share with you guys. If we get newsletters from the Chancellor's Office regarding this project, remember this is a system-wide implementation. They're just implementing campuses in waves and groups. So Bakersfield is in wave 1, group 2. We put up slide presentations, recorded sessions, and meeting notes. So feel free to go to that site for anything you may have missed previously, including the previous DOA meeting that was held last month. Okay, so as we had discussed previously, the DOA conversion for our campus, our go live date had been delayed. So now we are looking at going live in March 2024, probably likely mid-March. Training will occur either in late February or early March, and probably there's some overlap in both months regarding training. So just be aware of that. And once we have the final dates selected, we will send out meeting invitations and inform the group when we're going to be doing trainings. The Procure to Pay project, we learned later, required a restructure of the campus DOA for all of the business units because there were some configurations that they determined at a system level that impacted how our current DOA is structured. So as a result, we did this DOA conversion project. We did a meeting on November 16th. That meeting is recorded on the P2P website if you happen to miss it, but we are going to go over it again briefly. Okay. Next slide, please.
For some reason, it's not sliding.
It's not moving on to the next
No,
one.
let me stop.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry, Liz.
it's okay.
Maybe we can have Bianca try it, see if it works better for her. Oh, there we go. There we go. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Liz Gamez in Accounting and Reporting Services. And for anybody that may not have known, I didn't introduce myself in the beginning. My name is Marina Manzano, Director of Procurement and Contract Services, and I am the project and campus lead for this implementation. Okay, Liz, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Marina. I'm Liz Gamez. I've met with several groups already regarding the new DOA structure, and I've received a lot of feedback, and also the information that I received was very helpful for me in terms of how we were going to restructure the new chart fill. So previously, before, we mentioned that we would be delegating all signers on either a fund department combination or fund only combination. And so now we've received additional information from the Chancellor's Office confirming that we could only delegate signature authority on either a fund level or a department level. So we are no longer delegating at a fund and department, which means that campus will be using both fund or department DOA. And then I'll go into more detail in the next slide discussing what funds will use which type of DOA. All the other auxiliaries, which includes ASI, Foundation, SPA, and Student Union, student enterprises, student-centered enterprises will be using fund-only DOA. So for department-only approvers, what this means is that these signers will be able to approve any expenses coded to that department as long as there is no signers on the fund level. So if there are any signers on the fund level, those signers will supersede any signers on the department signature authority. So hopefully that makes sense. I've gone through some examples with some of the different areas stating how a transaction will process when it's being routed for approval. So if I am, for example, using my department, D21130, I am currently a signer there. And if I am using BK001, that transaction will come to all the signers on level 4 for approval. If I was using my department with an MX fund, and we have signers on an MX fund, the transaction will first route. We'll look at the department signers, it will route to the department signers, but then it'll recognize that we have signers on the fund level. And so the transaction will then automatically go to those signers on the fund level. And then for fund only approvers, these are signers that will approving any transactions for a particular fund, regardless of the department number being used on the transaction. Okay, so for campus, here is the new chart fill structure for the delegation of authority. On the department only approvers, these will be all your current signers that are under BK001. And so this impacts funds BK001, BKC02, BKCPO, BKCST, and BKGRD. So if you are using any of those funds and a transaction is coded to any of those funds, the transaction will route to the departments that are listed under BK001. Those are the approvers that will be authorizing that transaction. Now for fund-only approvers, for campus, this will impact any transactions that are coded to BK002, BKC03 through 5, BKCOM, BKCCR, BKFSP, RSC, any MSI, MSF funds, all EGO funds that start with MM funds, and that includes the MME funds, and then any remaining funds that we didn't list already. So if you have any construction funds, any MU funds, any student fees funds, MC funds, anything would fall under fund only. And if you're not sure, you can always reach out to us and we can help you identify how your fund will follow the new DOH structure. We also received additional updates from the Chancellor's Office. They clarified a couple of things. So I know that when we met on November 16th, we had mentioned how there was a possibility of probably moving our approvers from one level to the other just so that we could cover our gaps. So we were really emphasizing departments to look at all the gaps to make sure that we couldn't have any missing gaps from levels 1 through 4. However, the Chancellor's Office has clarified that we can have missing gaps. So one of the things that, in order to make that possible, is that we cannot have multiple or one approver under multiple levels. So if it must match their HR title. So for example, myself as a director, I'm an MPP, I am automatically a level 4. We can't move people's levels in order to accommodate some of the missing gaps. They really must match their HR title. So AVPs and deans, those will automatically be level 3s. Our VPs will be levels 2s, and then all other MPPs will be level 4, including department chairs. As I mentioned, missing levels will be okay. What will happen to that transaction is the next approver will be responsible for approving that transaction up to their limit. And so we have here an example of where we're missing a level 3. We do have a level 4 approver, so that person will be responsible for approving all the transactions up to their limit of 500,000. And then level 2 will be approving anything between that gap of level 3. So anything covering level 3 up to level 2 is what the level 2 approver will be approving. So we don't have to have all level 4 levels. If your department, this is a question that we received multiple times when I met with groups individually last week. A lot of the groups expressed that they really they really are looking at just having their deans approve all their transactions. So this will work if you remove all your level 4 approvers. So you can leave those blank and then just leave your level 3 on your DOA, and then all your transactions from $1 up to their limit of 700,000 will go to your level 3 approvers. And then one thing that was emphasized by the Chancellor's Office was that we should consider at least having a minimum of 2 signers on your lowest dollar approval level. So if you are looking at your level 4 and that's your lowest level, please always try to have 2 signers in case there's someone on vacation or if they're on an extended leave. Otherwise, the transaction will be stuck because it won't route to your level 3 unless the transaction is over that limit. So I hope that makes sense. So just make sure that we at least have enough coverage just in case a transaction needs to be approved while someone is out. During the time after we had that meeting on the 16th up until last week, we started compiling a list of questions that we received. And a lot of the questions were great questions. And so we took the most common ones and we have them. Let me see if I can pull up that document. It's currently not on the P2P site, but we will put it after, as soon as we're done with this meeting, I'll have Bianca help me publish it. But it just goes over several questions and we have examples and screenshots of what to look for. We've already shared this with several groups. And so I hope it'll be helpful because I know sometimes people might send a question to our org email, but we might not be able to respond immediately. And so it might be helpful to have the document so that way you can reference it back and get your answer more quickly in that manner. So some of the questions that we've been getting is the form might be missing information. So it'll look like you're missing information. Once you start filling out the recipients, will that be correct? And so what we found is once you start populating it and it is routed through the Power Form, that's when you'll see all your fields populated. There's situations where maybe a signer has separated and they need to be removed. What do we do to get their signature? And so we cover that in the document as well. Who should be the approving authority on our form? And so I wanted to clarify this one a little bit more because I think this one has more questions. So when you're looking at your Section 3 approver, that should be whoever is going to approve your signers in Section 2. So your signers that you're adding in Section 2 should be approved by the person that they report to. So if you're adding department chairs, associate deans, and all of these individuals report to your dean, so that means your dean should be signing on Section 3. If you're adding your dean on Section 2, and your dean's the one who's being added, then you probably want to route that then to your VP, the VP that the dean reports to. So I hope that clarifies that a little bit more. Once the power form is in circulation, we've had people ask, what do I do if I need to delete it? We've already sent it out, it's being routed. We can assist with that as well, but there's also a quicker way where you can get that deleted. And then people who need access inbox, you can just send us an email and we'll grant you access immediately on the inbox. And then the tasks, they're the same tasks. Here's the location of the box. Now we're asking people to start reviewing your levels and divisions to ensure accuracy, which is tab number 1. Review your signers in BK001, because these will be your department only signers. So that's also tab number 1. So just filter it by Fund BK001 and make sure those are your right department approvers that you'll be using. For your approval gaps, make sure that your missing gaps are okay. If you have gaps, make sure that your transaction will still be able to flow for approval with the missing gaps. And then also keep in mind that you want to at least have 2 people, because if you pull up the gaps on the tab that has all the gaps, it'll list the number of signers. So it'll say either 1 or 2, and then you want to make sure that at least you have 2 people in your lowest level of approver. And then review your projects, because those are going away. We're not bringing them to the DOA. And if you have the same signers on the fund level, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything on the projects. You just want to make sure that any of those signers that you know will be approving, that were once approvers on that project, will still be the same signers for that fund. Okay, so given the new information and given now that we had to restructure our delegation of authority, we've extended that deadline to submit all of your updates. Originally, it was December 8th, and so now we've extended it to December 20th. If you know that there's some issues because people are out for the holidays and you're not going to meet this deadline, send an email to each of the accounting teams in the emails below, and we will work with you. So just make sure you're in communication with us. That way we know when the form will be coming through, and then that way we can process it. There is going to be a blackout period from January 10th through January 24th, where we will not be accepting any new forms. At this point, if a form comes in on the 10th, it's going to wait until we are done with our conversion and we're using the new system. So from December 20th through January 10th, that's when we're processing all these requests. And we have quite a bit of requests. So keep in mind that we are going to be working very diligently in getting all of the documents processed and all the documents processed and everything updated in the system so that we're ready to go live at the end of January. And if you have any specific questions regarding your DOA and any of the other business units, feel free to send an email to the accounting email that's listed below here. And now we're open for any questions. So if anyone has any questions, I know Bianca, you've been monitoring the chat. So if you can let us know if there's anything in the chat.
Nothing yet, but Marina did put something in the chat. Marina, if you want to go over that really quick.
Sure. Probably most of you understand this by now, but I did want to point out, because I don't know that we've ever fully covered it, is that you cannot choose who to send the requisition to. So whoever is creating the requisition, which we call the requester role, it is going to automatically route in the procure to pay system to the appropriate approver based on the DOA and for the level that corresponds to the dollar amount of the requisition. So as Liz was stating, unless that level is blank, then it goes up to the next level, which would be the next higher level. So level 1 is the highest level, level 4 is the lowest based on the dollar amount. So I just wanted to make it clear. It's not like Adobe Sign where you're selecting who the signers are going to be on the form. The system is intuitive and has these workflows, and DOA is going to be built in, so it will determine who that signer is based on the information that you're provided in these updated forms.
I have a quick question regarding that, if I could ask really quick.
Sure.
So we have 2 level 4 signers, first being the department chair, the second one being the associate dean, and then our level 3 is the dean. So will the requisition go to both the chair and the associate dean and then the dean?
If you have 2 level 4 signers, then yes, I believe they both get a notification on approval for that, and then it would just be up to them to determine who's the appropriate person to sign that.
They
Okay, I think that
they assign it to themselves. It's there, they both get notification, and whichever one sees it first or thinks they want to do it, can assign it to themselves.
Yeah, I mean, if you have internal processes where you've determined, okay, the associate dean is approved to sign these certain things, but then we want this other person, level 4, to sign for these certain things, you can create those processes within your department internally. But yeah, they'll both receive a notification, and then you have to assign it to yourself in order to approve it.
Okay, I think that back in the day when this was all set up, like several years ago, the associate dean was included on the DOA in case the dean was out on vacation or something. So he really has no, I guess, responsibility for being on the requisition or approving anything. It should just be the chair and the dean. So I'm wondering now if I should go and remove him from everything.
Marcy, you bring up a good point, because when I was meeting with groups individually, they brought up the same concern. And what I've mentioned to them is only bring over your real approvers, your actual signers that are fiscally responsible for either that department or that fund. And so a lot of them express, oh, we just had people as backups, but really we had our department chairs, but really it was the dean who was really approving all transactions. So if that's the case, now's the time to remove them, because like we mentioned, they will be getting all those notifications.
Okay, that's good to know. So I think that our associate dean is on every single one of our funds. So that's a lot of extra work now that I'm going to have to do. So it will probably be, I'm assuming several weeks, because he's literally on every single department ID in every fund. So.
But I had the same question for BPA. They wanted to take off all their level 4 people. So I told them to just do one form and give me a list at the back of it of all the funds that they want the person taken off of, so that they didn't have to do like 15 forms. I don't know if that works for you, or if, you know, you really do want individual forms for everything.
So what we've done for campus, Marcy, is we'll have one form for fund. So I think that'll help.
Okay. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
So I could just do one form then for like the BK001 fund, and it will be all of our NSME departments. Okay. Oh, phew. Okay, that's super helpful. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are gonna get bombarded.
And on the topic of, you know, oh, what happens if somebody's on leave or on vacation, you there is the ability to have the approver like delegate his signing to somebody else when he's out. You can do that in the system, and I'm sure the core team will show us that functionality when we do training.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate your help.
Okay, so Paula wants to know, during January 10th to the 24th, does that mean no project numbers will be issued?
So project numbers has nothing to do with the delegation of authority. So those chart fields will be set up in CFS. whereas the delegation of authority is another module, so they're not related. So that should not impact it.
Okay. Vilma, I think we answered your question about the two signers. They'll both get it, and then they'll pick whoever gets to it first will get it. And then they'll just assign it to themselves. And then Paula had another question. Will the requisition that is being routed be compared to the budget available in that fund or department?
No, to my knowledge, there's no tie-in on the budget. We don't have that functionality in CFS, and I don't believe that that is going to be functionality that they have for procure to pay.
I have a question. If it's okay to go.
Go ahead. No other questions are in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay, thanks. So we just recently learned our dean is retiring, and so we had already filled out all these forms and submitted them by the December 8th deadline. I know in the past that a memo announcing who will be interim has sufficed to update the level 3. So is that going to suffice this time around, or are we going to need to update that because this is a different process?
I'm glad you brought that up for interim positions, because I know we've got the president, we'll have an interim president, we'll have an interim provost, we'll have other interim deans. So what we can do, Andrea, is you don't have to submit forms for the interim, but once you have once they've identified, not you, excuse me, but once they have identified the new dean, by that point we'll be converted into the new system, and so we'll probably need forms for those. But for the interim, we can definitely clean that up to remove your current dean and add the interim before we upload and convert to the new system. I hope that helps.
Yes, so we don't need to do it for the interim, but once the new dean starts, then we need to
Yes, because we'll go live
send.
yes, we'll be live at the end of January. So unless you think we'll have a permanent dean by then,
No,
okay, yeah, and that's
yeah,
typically the case, because I know Ego's going through the same thing, and just the other areas. And so what I mentioned to them was, unless we know who the permanent dean will be at the time when we're uploading and converting, we can definitely make the change. But at this point for interims, we'll just make the change.
okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Sorry, to follow up on that, are you going to go off the campus notification, or did you need me to send an email once they've identified the interim? Just as a reminder, because I don't want it to get left off anything, because we don't have any level 4, so our level 3 is important for our signature authority.
No, I think we can go off the email. I'll reach out to you, Andrea, if
Okay.
there's anything missing.
Okay, thanks, Liz.
Sure. I want to thank a couple of the groups that I met with last week, because they gave me really good feedback and they provided a lot of information on how you guys structure your signers. Because I know for academics it's different than BAS, and so I really want to thank like Lorianne Bishop. She was very helpful. She helped me identify which funds we can make fund that will be based only on fund levels, and which would probably follow the department levels. And then meeting with Ego and Lisa Ray and Val and all the other individuals, Isabel Gonzalez, all the ladies who were willing to meet with me and express or show me what they were doing with their DOA, really helped me understand how you guys are doing your cleanup. And then that way we can accommodate for your needs as well, because we can so we could tell you how we're changing things, but sometimes we don't know what works best for you as well. So
I'd also like to add that I appreciate all of you working with us on this project. I know it was kind of sprung on you at the 12th hour, like it was kind of sprung on us, and it was a lot of work to get done in a short amount of time. And I know there's some of you that are still processing it. So we appreciate you working on this, getting the forms in, asking the questions if you have any, so we're not getting held up on this, because we do have a deadline that we're trying to target in order for us to make this implementation date. So you working with us to get these forms in will ensure that we're able to meet that new targeted go live date of mid-March. And I know there'll be a bit of a learning curve for the new system, but there are 2 campuses in the system that are currently using this, Fresno State and Chico. And once they got over the learning curve, I've heard really positive feedback that the departments really like having this information. They're able to go and view their requisitions. They receive, they have it at their fingertips, what's been processed, where it's at in the workflows. So it's made it a lot more transparent and easier for them to track it. And a lot of them really appreciate the new system. So I am optimistic that we'll have the same situation, and I think you guys will appreciate having that and not having to contact procurement on the status of POs and where things are at. All right, if there aren't any other questions, then we'll give you back the rest of your time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Liz, again. Thank you, Becky, and the whole team that's been working on this, the other Director of Accounting and Reporting, Jessica. Appreciate you guys, and hope you all have a very wonderful and restful holiday break. Bye, everybody.
Bye.